Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of ARIRANG News. I'm Mark Brew. Our top story this morning, South Korea and the United States are set for high-level talks on strengthening their joint deterrence measures against North Korea. The foreign and defence ministers of the two allies will meet in Washington over the next 2 days. Connie Kim starts us off.
South Korea's foreign and defense ministers have kicked off their official visit to Washington by paying tribute at the Korean War Veterans Memorial. During their visit to the U.S., Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and Defense Minister Han Min-gu will seek response measures against North Korea's nuclear threats. A so-called 2+2 meeting will be held on Wednesday with the two South Korean ministers and their U.S. counterparts, Secretary of State John Kerry and Defense Secretary Ashton Carter. Topping the agenda are ways to bring out a strong UN Security Council resolution and formulate additional ways for Seoul and Washington to further pressure Pyongyang.
We'll focus on putting our heads together to ensure the sanctions on North Korea are the strongest they can be.
Minister Yoon and Secretary Kerry are set to hold a joint press conference following their talks. On the following day, the two defense chiefs are set to discuss Washington's extended deterrence over South Korea, under which the U.S. will mobilize all of its military assets to defend the country in a time of crisis. Having U.S. strategic assets deployed on the Korean peninsula at all times will reportedly be discussed during the defense talks. Carter hinted at such plans in the latest issue of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday. He said Washington is continuing to deploy some of its most advanced capabilities, including F-22 and F-35 stealth fighter jets and maritime patrol aircraft under the second phase of the Obama administration's rebalance to Asia. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
The 4-month-long investigation into Korea's fifth-largest conglomerate, Lotte Group, has technically come to an end. Prosecutors have decided to push ahead with indictments for the group's chairman, Shin Dong-bin, as well as his older brother, Dong-ju, and their father and the group's founder, Shin Gyok-ho. This comes after the court rejected the prosecution's request to arrest the group's chairman on embezzlement charges last month. They'll be charged with tax evasion, embezzlement, and breach of trust. The Lotte Group's founder's de facto wife, So Mi-kyung, as well as his daughter, Shin Young-ja, were also earlier indicted on charges of tax evasion. With that, prosecutors will wrap up the full-fledged probe into the group, launched back in June, with some 10 affiliates raided and about 500 of Lotte's executives and staff summoned by prosecutors either as suspects or witnesses. With less than 3 weeks to go before the US presidential election, a new poll shows Hillary Clinton holds a decisive advantage over Donald Trump in the competition for votes in the Electoral College. Our Kim Mok-yeon tells us more.
The poll released on Tuesday was jointly conducted by the Washington Post and SurveyMonkey on 15 battleground states. The results show Clinton leads in enough swing states to put her comfortably over the 270 majority needed to win the November 8th election. The polls say Clinton holds a lead of 4 points among likely voters in states that add up to 304 electoral votes, while Trump has the advantage in states with an estimated electoral vote that totals 138. Arizona, Florida, Ohio, and Texas, which together account for 96 electoral votes, remain as toss-ups. The results are based on ballot tests that include Libertarian Party nominee Gary Johnson and the Green Party's Jill Stein. The poll was conducted online from October 8th to the 16th on more than 17,000 likely voters. Meanwhile, regarding the latest scandal rocking Clinton's campaign, President Obama says claims of collusion between the FBI and State Department officials over the classification of an email on Clinton's private server were just not true. During a news conference at the White House, Obama said some of the more sensational implications or appearances weren't based on actual events. In interview notes released this week by the FBI, an unidentified bureau official said he heard secondhand that the State Department had offered a quid pro quo in exchange for declassifying an email. On Donald Trump's suggestions the presidential election is rigged, Obama said the Republican candidate should stop whining. Obama said Trump's actions do not show the kind of leadership and toughness Americans want in their president. Kim Mok-yeon, ARIRANG News.
Now, staying with international news, more suspected cases of Zika-related microcephaly in babies are being reported in Brazil. In the northeast of the country, one baby was confirmed to have microcephaly and 3 were categorized as suspected cases. Another 110 babies are under investigation. Experts say the virus could spread further later this year, especially as the weather gets hotter. According to Brazil's health authorities, there are now over 2,000 confirmed cases caused by Zika and 3,000 cases under investigation. Health authorities say if clinical trials in November are successful, they can distribute a vaccine within the next 3 years. Korea is going to hold its largest ever nationwide earthquake drill this afternoon to raise preparedness following last month's record-breaking 5.8 magnitude quake in the southeastern city of Gyeongju. The Ministry of Public Safety and Security says the drill, which will last 20 minutes, begins at 2 p.m. local time in just under 4 hours from now. Daycare centres, schools, government offices and public institutions are obligated to follow the radio broadcast instructions and take part in the drill. Cars and buses will be required to stop where they are for 5 minutes. Ulsan and Jeju Island, 2 areas severely hit by Typhoon Chaba in early October. They, however, will be excluded from the drill. And that's all the news we have for now. Our next bulletin is coming up at noon Korea time, so until then, goodbye.